Hi, everyone. Welcome to ET Brand Equity's Martech Dialogues. In this series, we have global industry voices taking us through their Martech journey. They will help us decode this rapidly evolving ecosystem and talk about data led, results driven innovations that have helped them optimize their marketing efforts. Our guest today is Priyanka Sehgal, a seasoned media professional and marketing strategist turned entrepreneur who set out on a personal mission to really understand the world of dating and the gaps in the market. She eventually launched an AI powered dating app, Sparkles, in the US. It aims for authentic connections and meaningful relationships through shared experiences. Hi, Priyanka. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, Priyanka, it's safe to say that it's 2022 and online dating is the only sort of go-to way when it comes to dating in most markets. It's a highly competitive space and is predicted to hit around $8.4 billion by 2024. There are over 8,000 dating apps globally, and they're trying to bring people together through advanced matching algorithms and behavioral technology. So, for starters, could you take us through the key differentiators in Sparkles versus the other dating apps out there?
So that's a good question. Of course, the dating app market is expanding, and you're right. That's one of the key ways of meeting people that you otherwise wouldn't meet in your normal life. So it's very important to stay on dating apps if you're single and you want to meet people. How Sparkles is different is basically Sparkles believes in less is more. That was my strategy before we decided to go ahead and build this. So how do we make sure that a user is not inconvenienced and answers 10,000 questions like they would normally do on most apps, because that's the filtering technology and processing that and that the algos pick up. So the idea was, how do we make less from less is more, and how do we give them a more fulfilling way to find and assess their own relationship readiness and that of their partners.
Right. And Sparkles, as we know, if you've mentioned earlier in all your interviews, it offers preferences in the experiences you like. There are compatibility scores, there are user moods, and a relationship assessment index to guide users individually. So, how did you really go about selecting the AI-based tools that would make these features work well? I mean, once you launched, were there any quick tech pivots also that you had to make in the initial phase?
Yeah, so there are very interesting insights, and AI is a tool, right, which actually gauges user interest. It tells you what people are looking for. It tells you how to give it to them, and then it tells you how to keep refining that search and offering them what you think they need versus what they think they need versus what they actually need. And most dating apps, what they tried to do was, they had LOS and algorithm, and then there were different ways of saying, how do we figure out what kind of pictures people are putting up? There's artificial intelligence to actually create a doppelganger effect, which means essentially that if you're swiping on a dating app and you've liked one celebrity lookalike, they will match you with more people with celebrity face types, and use that facial recognition technique to give you those celebrities. So there are all kinds of artificial intelligence that tells you that, okay, this person is looking for this, let me match them with this. There was one which says, let me just match them with interests. There's another one which says, let me just match them with their likes and dislikes based on music. And typically how this would work was that Netflix would give you options of shows that you watched, and options of shows that you should watch basis what you have watched. And so you have to play along and sometimes say, I'm swiping for this person, and then now let me create an outlier. Let me swipe for someone which is totally different from what I have swiped for so long. So there are apps that will match you with the types that you use, because effectively there are different kinds of algos for different behavioral analysis. One is profile building, one is what are they looking for, one is their behavior online versus what they're looking for. You will see, they will say they're looking for a long-term relationship, but they will match and they will start liking people for something casual. So that's a conflict in the user behavior. And so it's very interesting and very intriguing to map this and to find out that, hey, this person did this, but this is what they're doing. And then to find out the chats. Now, most people, what they did was that there were chatbots trying to filter out what people are saying versus what they look like versus who they actually are, and then bring out data from other places to say, hey, this profile is probably fake, or use bots to figure out that, okay, where are these IP addresses located? How do you figure out whether this person has uploaded their own pictures or someone else's? It's just so interesting that at every stage you can actually use those data sets and then extrapolate that and add another layer to that to figure out how you can give a user what they want versus what you want to give them versus what they actually need.
So that's really intuitive at the highest end, I must say. And just taking that along to hyper personalization, it's like really this sunshine concept right now for marketers. And it's all about tailored recommendations at the right time using all these real time analytics. So, how does, again, AI help you hyper personalize and sync your offerings that you have with all those preferences, behaviors, moods, purchase patterns, and attributes of all the users, even the ones who are gaming, trying to game the algo?
So the point here is that as a marketer, one would look at building a platform which integrates well natively with all other technologies, so that you can help assess what is it that your fundamental business goals are versus what is it that you're solving for your customers versus how do you want to go about it. Typically, there is no one integrated stack that offers you everything. There are so many different technologies, and we go crazy assessing what works for us basis which company you're working for. If you're in a Fortune 500 company, you have ample budgets to look into different ways and means and experiment. If you're a scrappy entrepreneur, you're going to be like, what's the first free service I can get to track something and then fix that? And then, so for instance, if you look at, say, there's different options of chat. Would you like to build your own chat, or would you like to use a Sendbird? Would you like to use Karma Chat? Would you like to use any of these? Because then in those chats you get detailed analytics, and then you can figure out how many people are chatting, how many messages have they sent to each other, what's the time that they're interacting at. So as a marketer, you have to be intuitive. You have to be your own customer first, to be able to say, hey, what is this business solving for me? What is it going to bring to me? What is the satisfaction I will get from using it? And then deploy ways and means to cover your stack, whatever that stack could be for you. For instance, if I'm looking at analytics and I'm looking at retention, as a marketer, everyone gets swayed all the time. You have to analyze your own business needs, and then you have to figure out, this is where I'm at. Can I use Google Analytics? Do I need a mixed panel? Do I need a Hotjar? Do I need CleverTap? Do I need a Pendo? What do I need? How do I drive that traffic from my site to actually convert? Now, in this whole case, there's a lot of legality, which tends to get overlooked because there are technologies that will ask you, they will evaluate the users who visit your page or your apps and give you their contact details. Now, that's illegal in a lot of places. So how are you conducting your business? What is it? And I think being ethical is good. It gets you ahead, it gets you what you want, and doing it the right way is just the right thing to do. And at the same time, as a marketer, you're always looking to solve problems of your customers and to listen to what they're saying.
Right. You touched upon what I'm about to talk about earlier, but if we were to talk a little more about customer engagement, now typically a user journey involves acquiring, onboarding, engaging users, and eventually they either churn or there is retention. And dating, of course, is peculiar with drop offs for a thousand reasons. And even when there's a match, people can drop off. So, vis a vis using tech, how are you achieving your engagement and retention goals at any given point in the user journey?
So what happens is that we've noticed that most of the people tend to bounce off or stay off apps or not engage, stay there but not engage, is because a lot of them get sexually implicit messages without even asking for it, and most of the women get that, and they haven't asked for any of this. That's the conversation that is getting triggered on most apps. That so what we decided to do was segment this and offer it to them, saying, hey, you want to do this, live your most authentic version. So we offered them those different modes, which said you could look for anything. That what we have on the app is a sum total of what people look for all over the globe. So that helps you map your user behavior and integrate that with your onboarding and the user journey. For instance, on Sparkles, we were very clear that the onboarding has to be really fast. You cannot spend 3 minutes just onboarding a customer. It has to be the easiest possible way, making them feel secure, and then just start using the app. So those modes that we get them straight onto is helping them identify what they're looking for. None of these modes get displayed on their profile. So if they're looking for something casual, it will not be displayed on their profile. But basis their selection, there's a compatibility score. So if I see someone and I'm looking for a long-term relationship, I don't know what they're looking for. They don't know what I'm looking for, but I see a compatibility score. I'm empowered as a user. I see their pictures, I see their bio, and then I can decide what swipe I want from those 4 swipes. So this is all about empowering users, but also asking them to live their most authentic version. And therefore, the whole concept of being intentional is extremely important. And that is what I think, we've tried to advocate a lot.
And in a similar vein, there's also obviously customer discovery. And you have an award winning background in content. So, in terms of using SEO to drive organic traffic, what sort of content creation tools and SEO tools are helping you kind of, spark that interest and drive up those search query volumes?
So the most important thing is, what am I really looking for from SEO? And typically everybody will go flood Google with the SEO searches. And the most important thing to note is that everyone else is doing the same thing in the business. As a marketer, if I'm saying, hey, let me rank keywords. Okay, for instance, in 2017, the most searched words on Google for relationships were, how do I work on a long distance relationship? Or what is a poly relationship? Or how do I get over a breakup? Now, if you have keywords which are going to be ranked basis, your content, or basis all the SEO strategies that you use, remember that Google is the biggest beneficiary of all of this. Anybody who is searching for anything with, and you know what they do, right? There's scrolling, there's rendering, there's indexing, ranking. That's what they will do. So if you are doing something on SEO side, remember that everyone else is also doing the same. So SEO is a long-term game. It's a great game. And that's the way you can generate a lot of conversions, not just leads.
And just to take that further, if I were to ask you, how would you sort of um, bring out a checklist if you wanted to? For example, just social listening tools itself. What would be your checklist to select the right tool here? Because it's also a very evolved game in global markets, and you're right there in the middle of things. So, what would be your checklist to select, let's say, for example, a social listening tool?
So I would look at the problems that they're facing and I would look at solving that. So for instance, I would look at what they're saying about the competition and what has not worked for them in competition. I would look at solving for that. And I think that is where the whole the idea of sparkles came about, that hey, there is somebody out there who's great, who's been in the business for so long, who's a market leader. We follow what they're doing, but we also now learn from what they're not doing and how do we fix that. So I think the most important thing is to understand where the user is facing a problem and then promptly identify those. And let me tell you one more thing. You can say that, hey, how does one customer really benefit you? But every customer matters. Every customer's voice matters. Every user out there, whether they're using your product or someone else's, you have to listen to. And you have to give them what they're not getting with competition. You have to give them what they're not getting with you.
Right. Let's talk about the all-important safety and trust features. Dating apps have photo sharing, they have video chatting, they have location sharing probably, they have a lot of information sharing. So how does tech really help you nudge the user community into creating a safer platform?
I think when it comes to safety and trust, so we've basically formed an organization here, which is of most dating app founders and industry people, technology people, and federal agencies, where we are looking to build more online trust and create the whole experience safer, make it safer for all genders alike, and see how we can reduce scamming and that has actually become a huge problem. That is something everybody is dealing with. What used to happen with dating apps, and typically if you Google how to increase the user base on dating apps, they will tell you create multiple fake profiles. So what happens here is that when you are looking for safety and trust, there are bots that identify, and there are various universities that come out with different research. Which is, I was reading one this morning, which is very interesting, about how they find out basis IP addresses, basis the pictures you upload, basis user behavior, conversations, whether this profile is fake or not. And that has been 99% accurate. Now, we're working closely with another company to develop, an AI-based mechanism where we are going to be looking at deeper background checks.
Priyanka, just moving on to automation, can you highlight the quick areas where it has really helped you understand your customer better?
So I think the most important thing is to assess the speed at which you get the information when it comes to automation. User behavior gets really, you get the analytics, you know exactly what is going on. How do you automate processes so that you can actually guide the user to positive behavioral change. So I think that is important. And when you look at that, a lot of predictability also comes into play. So when you see automation happening, when you see what are they looking at doing, what are they buying? For instance, if you look at e-commerce platforms, what are they buying? How do you set in motion a process for them saying, these are the products that you're likely to like or likely to buy? For instance, if you get onto Amazon, they will tell you, you've seen these products, there are certain other products like this, and they will keep sending you more recommendations about, hey, this is what it is about. We're looking at doing that a lot via content, where conversations in the community are happening about relationships, about experiences, about dating, about how deeply impacted they are mentally. I think that is where we are looking to bring in a lot of more insights via automation and to understand and optimize AI for revenue too, while giving them what they need at that point in time and helping solve their problems.
My last couple of questions, Priyanka. Let's talk about Metaverse. Dating apps are definitely treading a bit cautiously on that front. What are your thoughts on the possibilities for the dating space when it comes to Metaverse?
So so I'm very positive about every new technology that comes out, but how it is offered to users to consume and how they interact with that is yet to be seen. So metaverse is interesting in that sense, but there are a lot of people who've dropped their plans to invest in metaverse too. So but I would say, for instance, if users are out and having an experience, they'd be able to upload that on the app and show someone else virtually that, hey, this is where I'm at, this is what it is about. So for me, I would look at it positively when it comes to Sparkle, saying if a user is out there, they can come back, an influencer is out there on a date, they can come back and show the other people, hey, I was on this date with my partner doing this. This is what I discovered about them. This is virtually what you can see. You can do the same. There are lessons in it. We will have to see how everyone can position it. Now, metaverse is not something that can work in isolation. Usually technologies do not talk to each other. That's the problem. And then you have different giants, as we've seen, all fighting with each other, and then you are fighting to get their services and paying for all of them. So as a marketer, I would say, if you are looking to get into metaverse, you have to see how metaverse will work for your particular product versus what it is doing for someone else.
Lastly, what are your tips on being agile and future ready when it comes to Martech? Just those tech tools, be it smaller upgrades and fixes or bigger pivots that have helped you scale.
I keep coming back to the fact that customer retention, user discovery is key at every stage. So for everything that you do, every stack that you build, stay abreast of new technologies that come out. But remember, not all of them will work for you. So you have to see what is going to work for you, which enterprise are you talking about, which industry space you're in, who has it worked for, how much are you willing to experiment. And remember, when you're willing to experiment, there will be some loss in terms of business. So how much are you willing to let go versus how much are you holding on to, depending on, of course, the economy, financial situations too. But being agile is important, and therefore as a marketer you have to look at, it gets cognitive, it is a cognitive overload for a marketer too, because at every stage you have different vendors giving you different technologies that may or may not work for you, and then you're constantly depending on what you can improvise, or try and create something in-house. But it's usually easier to just take whatever everyone else has built for you and use it in your business. Now, if you are to do that, the most important thing is not to get carried away by the trends. I think user discovery at every stage of your journey is important. Today, I can say, I've built this app for, say, 25 plus. Tomorrow, when users start using it, I could literally have 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds using it. You never know, or 30-year-olds, right? So user discovery at every stage is important. And what are you planning to offer them? And then work backwards. It's about setting goals, right? It's not about, hey, I want to acquire X number of users by this month or by this week. So how do I work backwards to do that? It doesn't work like that. It's about how many users who are already on the app or in your business, how much are they benefiting from your offerings, how many are not, and the ones who are not benefiting, how can you make sure you solve their problems? The ones who are already benefiting, how can you work with them for referrals? So I think your customer is your biggest ambassador, so you have to be customer centric.
Priyanka, thank you so much for joining us in this series. It was lovely talking to you. All the very best for your journey with Sparkles.
Thank you, it was really interesting discussion, and thank you for having me.